You're listening to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio with Rick Thompson, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, welcome to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio. I am your host, Rick Thompson. This show is about sobriety and recovery. Each week, we discuss a different topic relating to addiction with the aim that you can gain some insight, guidance, and hope from our discussions. We focus the show in 3 different segments. 1, the viewpoint of the families dealing with the family members suffering from alcoholism and addiction so they may assist them in obtaining treatment. 2, the psychological trauma and emotional damage alcoholics and addicts and their families experience. 3, the role of the insurance companies and associate providers and their part in the recovery process. Hello everyone, come in and get comfortable and welcome to the show. Tonight we are going to talk about recovery interventions, sober companion arrangements, and what they entail. In the studio with me tonight are Kaylee Powers, who is a recovery interventional counselor at Send Detox, providing detox and counseling to individuals or families affected by substance abuse, in addition to infrastructure support as a sober companion. She also participates in relapse assessment, substance abuse crisis counseling, and facilitates recovery groups. You can see we're a little off tonight. We started a little late, and I've had some coffee, and here we go. And our dear friend Tim Walker, who has written a new book called Shaken, Not Broken, and is in recovery and will also share his recovery with us. Hello, Kaylee and Tim. How are you this evening?
Good to see you, Rick. Nice to be here.
I'm doing well.
Okay. Let's start the show with a few questions that I have. Kaylee, can you please give us an overview of what it is that you do within the treatment arena?
Sure, Rick. I basically work with a lot of chronic relapsers in and out of treatment. A lot of them are suffering from post-acute withdrawal syndrome, so I work with them on different medical interventions. I also work with people who have long-term sobriety, but they start coming up against cross-addiction or they have chronic pain issues. So I help them learn how to treat that, because treating pain is very tricky in recovery.
Right. Okay. What do you feel are the most challenging aspects of your job?
The most challenging thing I encounter is the disconnect between being in treatment and trying to go back into society. So they're great in treatment, they start doing the work. The minute they hit the sidewalk, they relapse.
So how do you deal with that?
I try to explain to them to try to continue what they're learning in treatment, get a sponsor, see a doctor, try to take that into their life when they leave. Mm-hmm. But there is some area where it just falls down and it becomes a vicious cycle.
What do you think that is?
I think they are too insulated in the treatment centers. I think they become comfortable. They're so tired. It sort of becomes like a rest between relapses. Even if they don't want it to be. They're beat up from the disease.
Right.
They're exhausted.
So basically they just use that as a place to hide, and after a while there's no real recovery going on. It's more of a withdrawal scenario for them emotionally.
Yeah, they get too focused on everything that's going around in the treatment center and the other clients and rehab romances and all this drama. Yeah. And there's not, what am I going to do when I leave here? How am I going to get back into life? How am I going to repair my relationships with my family? How am I going to get a job again? Where am I going to live? They're not thinking about that at the time. They're just exhausted.
Now, are you working in? I want to make sure I've got some clarification. You're working in a full-blown recovery treatment center?
I do that, and then I also work with individuals.
Okay, so going back to what you just said, isn't there some type of program within the program of the center that would help them at least, I guess, be aware of these realities that they have to walk into when they walk out of the center, dealing with the family, the repair, and how they're going to stay sober, how they're going to put together some kind of a backup plan for people to have
There is what we call a discharge planner, but for some reason the treatment model is more to focus on groups and the psychology-based practice instead of, okay, how am I going to really make this work in my life? Mm-hmm. And so that comes
practical
from funding.
Application then, right?
Insurance and funding want groups, and they want billable hours.
Right.
They're not really that into how are you going to get out there and do this on your own.
Right.
That's not their focus.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's interesting. Well, in your experience, how does the family of the person who's suffering?
Well, I refer a lot of family members to Al-Anon, and I have to explain that it's a family disease. Some of them know that. Most of their loved ones have been through this before, so they're not new to the situation.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't give you the whole question in my head. How does the family of the person who's suffering deal with accepting this level of exposure of their private matters and move forward to obtain, help and treatment for the suffering family member?
Well, they're usually pretty exposed by the time I start speaking to them. There's been a lot of wreckage, so that's not something new. But I have to tread very lightly. I don't know what the level of insight with the family members is going to be. Mm-hmm. I encounter a lot of codependency issues, trauma.
Naturally.
So I have to be very, I have to build a rapport with the family, because the family can be a great support to the addict and alcoholic, but can also be someone that can be very triggering.
Oh, very detrimental as well. What do you think, Timmy?
Well, I'm all about recovery and what she's doing. I never went through a recovery house. I never have fallen off the wagon. I'm losing the word at the moment. I can't think of the word.
Relapse.
Relapse. I'm sorry. Thank you. Relapse. But I'm so for it, because I'm for the people that relapse and they don't come back. Come back. The people get so the stigma that I've relapsed and they're going to laugh at me or they're going to hate me.
The shame.
There's shame.
Absolute shame.
It's
the wall of shame.
Come back no matter what. Please come back. Those are the ones that break my heart. If you fall, you've fallen.
Right.
Let us pick you up. Come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how many of them don't. I would watch people go out that were intelligent human beings. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they just couldn't get that modicum of simplicity that all you got to do is just walk back in the door and try it again. And try it again, and try it again, and then the ego gets involved, and then the shame gets involved, and the next thing you know, they're gone.
And people forget the only requirement for membership is a desire.
That's it.
They
Absolutely.
just need a desire. And if more people that are sober have more patience, acceptance, tolerance, understanding, because everyone's story is different.
Well, that's true. So this question is to both of you. In your opinion, what's the first move for the person that has the moment of clarity and has come to the reality of their malady and remote acceptance of it?
I'm going to defer to you on this.
You got to
one.
grab somebody quick. Somebody that you trust, somebody that's not going to judge you, somebody that hasn't been through too much wreckage with you, and hold on to them. Take action immediately, because those moments of clarity can pass really quick.
Yeah, that's an understatement, isn't it?
Well, you've got to get into a program right away, just immediately.
Or even a sober coach. Sober coach can get you through the night.
That's true. That's expensive. That's an expensive, scenario, being that most of these people, we're talking $575, $600, $750 a day in expenses. And that's it, because the thing is within that environment, because I am a sober companion, you've got to have professional liability insurance for $3 million. Because if something goes south, no matter what you can do for a person, you cannot control them 24 hours a day, even unless you're sleeping literally almost in the bed with them and you're shackled with them. All they got to do is just go into the next room, and if, say, for instance, God forbid, they're a heroin addict, they take one hot shot, they're dead, and then there you go. Then it's lawyers, guns, and money. And so it's.
Well, boy, you've really got to pray that moment of clarity just seeps right in, and somebody gets it. Because I will never forget the time someone said to me, "You're drinking and using an awful lot. Do you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous?" I knew nothing about it. But it was the moment of clarity when he said Alcoholics Anonymous that I knew I had to get into it. And I walked in that day. I made a phone call that day to a friend, And he said, great, I'll see you at Chandler Lodge tonight at 6 o'clock. And I walked right in there with a willingness, and that was 17 years ago. And I thank God every day that willingness was given to me that day.
And those are the people that need to be reaching out to the newcomers with the moments of clarity and just giving them a cup of coffee and sitting with them. If they can't afford a sober companion, there's always somebody in AA willing to do the 12-step.
Of course. Yeah,
you can always find somebody to come pick up.
Right.
Somebody, I mean.
Always. Yeah, I never had a sober companion, and I lasted, as long as I have. I wanted it. I wanted to be alive more than I wanted to be dead. Because the way I looked at it, there are no girls, there are no milkshakes in the casket.
Yes.
That's it, man. That's what kept me in the rooms. It was simple as that. It's like there's nobody to love you when you're dead.
Or when you're sick. When you're so sick that you can't even get out of the bed and you're shaking and you're too ashamed to call anyone. Like when you're at that kind of bottom, it just gets harder and harder to come back.
Yeah. That's true. It does. It's. I was thinking the other day about guys that I've known over the past 22 plus years, and it's like there was this guy, handsome, strapping young man, had about a year and a half, college educated. He was making $150 a year. We were having a cigar one day. The guy gets him, goes, I'll see you guys later. He went right home and hung himself.
Wow.
Nobody saw this coming, man. I mean, there was no indicators. And so what I learned from that is open your mouth. Open it. Yep. Whatever the hell it is, that's the thing that's going to kill you. That's the one thing that's going to kill you. Because if you stick it in the drawer and you hide it and do that, take it to the grave crap, that's going to kill you, and that's going to put you on the embalming table. And I learned, it's a hell of a way to learn that lesson. And I've seen multiple guys that were really highly intelligent men that just didn't get that one thing, or, they were in such pain that they didn't process it through the meetings. I mean, they would talk to their shrink or whatever, but they weren't getting the answers that they needed. And I know two guys that put 357s to their heart and blew their hearts apart. Two of them. One of them had 19 years, came from an affluent family in Dallas, the nicest guy you'd ever meet in your life. And I swear to God, I'd never picked it up that he was depressed. Never.
See, now that's the other thing. I've never met an alcoholic who wasn't depressed.
Yeah,
I mean, they run around together. Depression and alcoholism are best friends.
Yes, they are.
And if you got long-term sobriety and you are so depressed and you're having thoughts of suicide, you need to seek help. You need to tell somebody about it, because the book and the meetings are not going to help. That's an outside issue and it needs to work together.
That's right.
And I see that a lot in the rooms. They'll come and run and get me and says, she's suicidal, but she's got time, I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, there's a lot of other things that can go on in sobriety that need addressing.
Absolutely. But you can't tell people that don't have it that's going on, because when they're in the rooms and they hear that and they say, well, that's an outside issue. Okay, that may be an outside issue, but until we get them to a place where they're safe and they can receive the proper type of treatment, we're responsible for those people.
Yes, we are.
Period. As they are responsible for us. And I haven't, the program in LA is different than it is in Akron. And I was blessed to get sober the first time in Akron when I lived there. And I was 12-step by somebody that was in the program, that was long-term sobriety, very sweet woman. And through the fast course of events, I was placed in the Interval Brotherhood home in Akron, Ohio, which was a 3-month program. And, man, if it wasn't for that, I'd be gone. I'd be gone. And I think of all the people that didn't have that opportunity. And what I was able to experience is these guys took me to the most beat up rooms you could ever imagine, that were just, there were none of the foo-foo stuff that's going on here.
That's the best recovery places.
Hardcore.
Like Old Radford.
Yeah,
best recovery houses are the ones that are beat up.
Yeah, and these old guys were sitting there and they'd have their coffees and they'd just look at you. And they'd piss you off and they'd go, what do you think? A week? And another guy across the room goes, I'll bet you $5. He doesn't last a month. And I would say, F you. And that is what helped me stay sober.
So that inspired you.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of discouraged you.
Oh, yeah.
That's very interesting. It's like they threw a challenge down.
Yeah, right. Watch this.
And you accepted the challenge.
Sure did.
Okay.
Yeah. I said, really? Watch this.
I've seen it work like that
It works like that, because, if somebody, that's what sometimes you just have to say that to somebody just to poke them, just to get them into reality for a minute. And then they'll go, really? And then if that part of their ego kicks in and saves their life, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
the
tough love approach is very effective in some capacities for that, when you're stubborn like that.
Yeah. Well, when you come in, you're looking for anything to fill the hole.
Sure.
Right? Because the booze is gone, drugs gone, so you got cigarettes, you got food, you got sex. That's it. And when you walk into any room, it's like a free-for-all because all the newcomers are nuts. And people are nuts until they get to be 10. I didn't have even a remote shot at clarity until I got 10 years. And this old guy walked up and says, okay, you've got your marbles, but pay attention. You cannot play with them.
That's a good metaphor.
And I thought, okay. And I got that. I was still so nuts. I said, okay, I got that. But, okay, I got them, but I can't look at them. I can't touch them. I got to leave them alone. And then when I got to around 18 years, all of a sudden it was like a domino effect. Things just started going boom, 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 boom. The two things I had a real problem with. One was I would start getting emotional. I'd start crying and a wall would come up and I have no idea where the hell it came from. It was my disease. And I learned that. And the other thing was I was always the big problem was I could never be present 100% in the moment of my life, living my life. It took about 18 and a half years to get there, to where, I would sit there and I'd be focused in a meeting, and boom, I'd be 10 years ago, I'd be somewhere else, or I'd be thinking about something else, and then I have to gently I used to do it violently. I'd slam myself back into reality. Then I learned to be gentle with myself. And, that was a real hard problem for me. And I think that a lot of newcomers that come in, they have a hard time just staying there and paying attention to get the information they need to stay alive.
A lot of their central nervous systems are shut out.
Sure.
They're shut down, and they are so physically uncomfortable. It is so hard for them to sit still in a meeting.
Right.
It's so hard for them to concentrate. And, people need to have that understanding. It's like when you have long-term sobriety, you don't remember what that feels like. You might remember it, but they're going through it daily.
Right.
And, they need that extra care. They need that extra conversation and patience.
Right. They certainly do.
And not to give up on the chronic relapsers.
Yeah, you can't ever do that because you never know when they're going to get it. They're going to get it the second they get it. And
every day they don't drink is the blessing. They might only get 2 weeks at a time for 5 years, but they'll stay alive if they can get 2 weeks at a time. And you honor that 2 weeks.
Right. Don't forget you can call into the show if you have any questions. Or if you'd like to share something with us, we'd love to hear from you. Our call-in number is 323-203-0815. Again, that's 323-203-0815. Now I'm back with Kaylee and Tim. We're going to go to the phones and take some calls. Hopefully somebody will call us soon. But I'm going to continue on with another question that I have for actually both of you. What are your thoughts pertaining to the state of California reviewing the legal aspects of the facilities, their treatment facilities and the sober living houses, and thereby creating new laws or guidelines for sober living facilities and the treatment facilities as well?
Well, I think they should definitely be guidelines because hasn't there been a thing recently about some abuse or things going on in sober living?
And tons of abuse.
Like a lot of sexual abuse. There was one guy, I can't remember his name, but he's like the guru of sober living and treatment centers. He's like making millions off of this. And LA Weekly did a story on him, and about 2 weeks ago, I had the lawyer, who's a friend of mine, Alan Schimmel, who's representing 5 of the plaintiffs against this individual. And, this was so twisted off, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. It was that far out there. And for me to get that twisted off about it, it's got to be bad. And this guy is like, the dark side of the moon. Really, he brings these girls in. And then he figures out they've got father issues because they didn't have one or something else. And so he is not a licensed therapist. He takes them into a room. He does this faux therapy session, pushes their buttons, gets their trust. And then all of a sudden, he's taken two girls to the Four Seasons in Westlake Village, and they're doing meth, and they're doing three-ways. And, this guy is like...
it's common, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've seen so many of my clients get some time, and they go to a sober living. There's using in the sober living. The manager is 13-stepping. I mean, it's very common. I don't refer clients to sober livings unless somebody I know tells me about the facility, and they change on a dime. Mm-hmm. One might be good 1 month, and the next month it's completely different.
Yeah, because it all depends who the manager is, because they go through managers like socks in these places. With these guys, they don't want to pay them $75 a year, and so they find these guys that have been sober for like maybe about 3 years, and they give them room and board and a really nice pad in the house. Right. So it's like the wolf watching the chickens.
I was just
going
to say, what's the old deal? The fox is in charge of the hen house,
right?
And it has to be regulated.
I've also seen, during the recession, 4 people to a room, stacked in bunk beds, charging them $500 a person in a 2-bedroom house in the valley. Yeah. I've seen those nuts. Conditions, and these people have, 28 days they have nowhere else to go.
Right.
There needs to be a regulation. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be a lot of intervention.
That's an understatement. Well, I'm glad that we got to talk about these topics, because this is really important that these situations are addressed. And now what I would like to do is I would like to have Tim share his experience, strength, and hope with us.
I'd be thrilled to do that for you, Rick. It's nice to be here with your guests and you. And 17 years ago, I couldn't stop drinking and drugging. I couldn't stop.
Before you start, I've got a call coming in. Can we take this call?
Yes, take the call.
All right, hang on. Sorry. Hello, you're on the air. Welcome to Life Repair. Hello? Hello? Okay. Well, that's not going well. Okay. Well, the call's not working. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, Tim, go for it.
Okay, like I was saying, I couldn't stop drinking and drugging 17 years ago. And I was at work one day, and one of my worker friends came up to me and said, "Do you know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous?" I didn't know a thing about it, but I had a friend whose son was in it. And it must have just been the right timing, because I had a willingness to pick up the phone, call my friend's son, and say, "Tony, I need some help." And he says on the end of the line, "Great, I'll see you at Chandler Lodge tonight at 6 o'clock. And I walked into Chandler Lodge at 6 o'clock that day with a willingness to sit down, shut up, and listen. Just listen. And they said to me, "Don't drink, don't use, don't run, one day at a time. Get a sponsor, work the steps, and we can get you sober." And I guess I was just ready to hear that, because I was drinking a fifth a day at work. I was producing a show at a major studio in this town. I had 35 people working for me. And it got to a point every day where my big job of the day was, where are we going for lunch? Do I need to make a reservation? And how many people are going? And they've got to have a full-blown bar. No beer and wine bar. And then we work on the show. And it was out of hand. It was out of control, totally. So I came into the program, and I met some guys at Chandler Lodge. I met my sponsor at Chandler Lodge, and I went through the steps. He's also an artist. And I went through the steps with him, and I got sober. And I had a good life. A good life. Things came back into my life. I started seeing things a lot clearer. I participated in life. I became of service to people in life. I got out of myself, and that's how I would deal with depression and other things that would come up in my head. Be of service. Lived in the prayer to St. Francis. Lived in that prayer.
Right.
So, and I would take a sketchbook in and I would draw. I'm an artist. I would draw in a sketchbook and listen to guys share. And I'd share once in a while. And then one day, 8 years of sobriety I've got, I started to notice a weakness in my right arm. And I go to the doctor. The doctor says, "You've got to go see a neurologist." And I go to see the neurologist. He puts me through a few tests, and he throws a punch that drops me right to the ground. Lateral Parkinson's disease on my right side. And it crushes my ability to draw. Now, I've been drawing since I was 5 years old. I saw a cartoon on television when I was 5. I didn't even know what it was. But I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. And I lived my dream. I did 50 years in animation. And that is even, no matter how hard I tried to destroy that career by drinking and drugging on the job, thank God I survived it. But I lost the use of my right hand that day. I couldn't even pick up the pencil. I left that doctor's office with a huge resentment against everybody, everything, and my higher power was right at the top. How could you do this to me? I don't rob people, I don't murder people. I'll take anything but this. My best alcoholic thinking was to load my car with Absolute, my poison of choice, drive to Mexico, and shake and bake into oblivion because I'm through.
Right.
My career's going to disintegrate right in front of my eyes. That was my best alcoholic thinking for about 42 seconds. Now, this kind of goes back a little bit about the intellectual and over-analyzing everything. You have heard me say this many times, Rick, I'm sure, that thank God I'm a dumbbell cartoonist from Burbank. That's all I am. Yeah. That's all I ever wanted to be. Had I been an intellectual, I would have overthought this entire situation, probably fallen into a huge depression, and never come out. God only knows where I would have wound up. But I had a moment of clarity, and I said, God, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I need help, and I need help right now. And I'm convinced that a power greater than self revealed to my mind what to do, and that was to be of service. Because that'll get you out of yourself. Be of service to the guy that needs it.
Right.
And by the way, you have a left hand. I went to the bookstore, I bought a sketchbook, I opened it up, and with my left hand I wrote drawings from the left on the top page, and I taught myself to draw and write, and I saved a career. Now, I didn't do that. A power greater than self did that. Alcoholics Anonymous did that. The people in this program that give up their experience, strength, and hope every day so I can learn how to live my life, and this is key, one day at a time. I can't get into next week, next month, or go back. If I start projecting into tomorrow or the next day or whatever, I'm nuts. Right. Because I have no idea where I'm going with this disease that I have, because there's no cure for this disease. So my life gets good again. I'm drawing with my left hand. I go back to my office. I go to my boss and I say, Howard, I can't use my right hand, but I'm going to teach myself to draw and write left-handed. And he says to me, Tim, I'm not paying you for beautiful calligraphy. I was directing at the time, so I did a lot of writing. He said, as long as I can read what you're writing, you're here. First step in the right direction. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. So for the next 6 years, I'm doing everything left-handed, and the disease starts going to the left side. Man. Now, there is an operation called deep brain stimulant operation for Parkinson's patients, where they literally drill 2 small holes into your brain, place 2 electrodes into your brain, and stimulate your nervous system electronically, where yours is stimulated chemically because of the chemicals that your brain manufactures, that mine no longer does. So my neurologist says, we're going down to UCLA and check on this. So we go to UCLA and they look me over and they say, you're on low-level medication. You need to step up to this higher-level medication, and we see how you do in a month. Well, I think you might remember the day, 2 days after I started taking this medication, I was running around.
It was amazing. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, my home group parking lot in the morning before the meeting at 7 o'clock, backwards. I'd been shuffling along like I'd had a stroke. You'd have looked at me and said, Tim's had a stroke.
Yes. I
couldn't raise my right hand from my leg, and I couldn't even pick my feet up, and I'm running around backwards. I go back to UCLA, and UCLA says, you are doing so good on the medication, you don't need the operation. Just keep doing what you're doing. Now, that's been almost 3 years ago.
Right. And
now it's progressed a little bit, but it's still, if I didn't tell you I had this disease, you probably wouldn't know I had it.
No, you wouldn't.
And I'm drawing back with my right hand again. And I am so full of gratitude for this program. This program gave me a life beyond, you know how they say a life beyond your wildest dreams?
All right.
I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. I am a miracle of this program. Had I not had this program and I was out and got this horrible disease, I would have taken myself out, Rick. There's no way I would have done this.
Well.
There's no possible way. I speak a lot of places. I go to a lot of places. I speak in a lot of meetings, and I've had many people come up to me after meetings. I was in Sacramento one time speaking in a meeting, and a guy came up to me afterwards, after I'd shared my experience, strength, and hope in the meeting, in tears, and he says to me, "My father has Parkinson's disease. My grandfather has Parkinson's disease. I'm scared to death that I'm going to get it. And for months, I felt that Robin Williams had the only answer until today. Mm-hmm. You saved my life. You gave me hope. You gave me inspiration. Never in a million years did I ever think I'd have anything to say that would mean anything to anybody. But now I guess somebody is working behind the scenes and giving me things to say and do that need to be said and done."
Right.
I feel like the door to animation has closed. I had 50 years doing my dream. How many people get a year?
Not many.
Not many.
Not in this city.
No. I had 50.
It's a tough world.
It's ugly out here.
Yeah.
My dad always says, everybody wants to get in the game, very few make it.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
That's true.
And I feel now the door, so that door's closed, but the door to hope and inspiration has opened. And if I have to spend the rest of my life in that doorway, that's fine. So that's a little bit about what's going on with me. There's other things we could talk about, but I love the program. It's all good.
I remember you sharing in the mornings, and I would. This is prior to the medication, and I just come out and hug you, man. I didn't know what the hell else to do. I mean, you look like you were a withering flower.
Yeah.
You know, you were dying.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I will never forget that moment in the parking lot the rest of my life, where we're all just sitting there talking, and you're sitting there and you've got this smile on your face, and I'm like, oh, Christ, he's going insane. I mean, really. Hang on, we've got a call coming in. Hello, you're on the air. Welcome to Life Repair. Hello.
Our disappearing calls.
I think the gremlins are working today.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let me trying to.
What I like about your story, Tim, is that you want to give back, and you also were willing to follow direction. I think so many people suffering from alcoholism and addiction, they don't know how to talk to a doctor. They don't know how to follow direction.
Right.
Their best.
Hello,
thinking,
you're on Life Repair. We have, for some reason, we're not getting any activity on the telephone call-ins, and we're really sorry about that. It's a technical glitch, and we'll fix it.
So I just think that's wonderful that you're willing to be of service and, you know, go early to these meetings and tell this story because, you know, even with me, and my father has diabetes and he's an illustrator, that inspired me.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have Parkinson's, but his drawing is suffering because of, you know, illness.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. You know, there's so much positive stuff in programs. There's so much help everywhere. And you just have to be open and go and ask for it. Go and ask for it. I just try to be of service to anybody and everybody I can be. Because I want them to know if I'm going what I'm going through and I can do it without drinking or drugging one day at a time, you can get through anything. Anything. There's so much help out there. So much help. And you know, life is just so good. Life is the best. I'm 67 years old. I'm doing the best artwork I've ever done in my life. And it's the most fun I've ever had in my life at this point.
And you feel good because you're giving back.
Absolutely.
And you're helping a lot of people. And that's really what a lot of the 12-step model, you know, is based on.
For those who care to call back in, the glitch has been fixed by our technical wizard. Our call-in number is 323-203-0815. And what do you know? Here's a call. Hello, welcome to Life Repair.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, sir. Sorry if there was a previous problem. These things do happen.
Well, welcome to live radio, Mr. Host.
Yes, indeed. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind, caller?
What's going on?
Well, we're just discussing various aspects of the recovery world. And I don't know how much of this you have listened to, but we're always interested in a new, fresh opinion.
Well, what kind of opinion would you like?
Well, I mean, that's a dice roll in itself in this situation.
Well, I think what was really interesting over the weekend, big news from Washington, D.C., was President Obama introduced legislation to Congress for increased opiate addiction relief and treatment, and which has never been done before. And I think that Congress, of course, will pass it.
Yeah.
So he's not such a lame duck.
That's very
8 out of 10 people are in high school are addicted to opiates or heroin. Call it what you will. And I think that's great that the president got busy and passed that up through and put it to Congress.
Well, thank God he did it. I mean, it should have been done 8 years ago or further back than that, but at least he did it.
Yeah. It's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, and now what? So what? Now what? I mean, they had the foresight to get it done before he left office, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I think that we're going to find, addiction centers on every corner like a 7-Eleven here in the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, it's almost starting to look like that now, at least credible ones.
Yes, credible ones.
Yeah.
Not necessarily addiction centers, but recovery centers. I apologize.
Right. Well, it's certainly a big business. I mean, there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of sick people, which is ethically shaky to a point.
Well, when you really think about it, I mean, the hospitals are for years and years. Doctors make huge profits off of sick people. I mean,
true.
Addicts do not come in on a winning ticket. Nor when you have your gallbladder out or you have lung cancer, or you're on a winning ticket. It's sort of like, I say to clients all the time, if you broke your leg, would you take your wife to the hospital? Well, of course. If she broke her arm, would you take her to the hospital? Absolutely. Would you seek help? Absolutely. If she broke her back, would you help? Absolutely, I'd help her. But why is it that they won't help the addict?
That's a very good point.
That's a very valid
point. It's amazing to me.
Because they don't look at it as a medical condition. Even though we've come so far, people are still looking at it as a choice or a willing thing, or it's not looked at medically the way it could be.
That's true.
I do agree with you. I think you're punished in some arenas. I think families punish the addicts. God damn you! I told you not to do this, you son of a bitch. You're going to pay now.
Yeah, because now we're the victims from your behavior.
Right.
Right, and now you didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
I told you to change your underwear before you went to the doctor. Now you're in trouble.
Yeah. All their focus gets placed on what the alcoholic is doing or not doing, and then they're not looking at their part in the illness and the family disease.
And they're not going to. They're very hard. They're very. They're extremely. Family members are hard to give it up.
I'm going to add somebody into our group call. Hello, welcome to Life Repair. You're on the radio. Who are we talking to?
My name is Miss A.
Hello, Miss A. Welcome to the show. There's Miss A.
Am I really on the radio?
Yes, you are.
Either that or this is a mass hallucination.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for doing this show.
Thank you.
And I wanted to open a new topic for you guys.
Okay.
Okay, because I have experience in both mental illness and in alcoholism, which I'm not even sure are different things. But there seems to be a division. And what do you do for people who seem to be having a harder time of it because of whatever mental illness condition that they've been given by their psychiatrist? It's people can drop off that way because not everybody understands.
All right, people, jump in. Let's go.
Well, that's a very good issue. And the psychiatrist, the AA sponsor, the medical general practitioner, all these people need to work together. And people need to know their roles, and they need to address things that they know and not speak out of things that they don't know. Because they do go hand in hand, co-occurring. It's a co-occurring situation. The depression can trigger the drinking can trigger the depression, and you go in a circle. And there's ways to treat both of them. But people in AA are not really going to know about how to treat it with meds, and people in psychiatry are not really going to know how to treat it with AA. So people need to know their roles, and you need to get educated, and you need to ask a lot of questions, and you need to turn it over to your higher power and figure out what's right for you. And do not get involved in the stigma and the judgment and, the things that don't serve you.
JT, you got an opinion on this?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with your guest there. I mean, there's so much information that an alcoholic in AA has. I mean, they go by this big book, which is great. It's a wonderful text on how to stay sober. But if drinking is one of your issues, but you have a chemical imbalance, it doesn't address that. But it does address it in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that it states that we are not doctors, and we are not to give medical opinions, and you find that all the time in AA.
Yes,
if you're on psych meds, you're not sober.
Right, which is crap.
That is still going on in 2016.
Yeah, which is it's unrealistic, and it's ridiculous.
I'm
because
still running into that, and it amazes me. It surprises me every single time I hear, I was dumped by my sponsor because I had to take something for chronic pain. Really? That is still happening.
I was sitting in a meeting once, and this girl was sharing about her having to take psych meds. And this guy shared this old-timer wannabe guru cat, said, if you do that, you're not sober. And then the next guy, a guy named Leo, God bless him, who's gone now, looked at her and said, honey, when you snap, go over to his house and blow his brains out first. And everybody just lost it, and because he was proving the valid point that, you're not a psychiatrist and you have no right to say something like that because this poor girl has outside issues, which have nothing to do with what's going on in here.
Can I interject?
Of course.
Sure.
Psychiatrists are not always trustworthy.
No doctor.
And they don't know how to medicate people, and they don't know how to get people off of these medications. And they are, after a certain amount of time, very dependent on them.
Yes.
So it's it's a field that's uncharted territory, and it just needs to be addressed, on both sides.
And people need to be educated on how to talk to their doctors and how to find a psychiatrist that is good. A lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, substance abuse, pills, all that stuff is just a bad vibe for them. They don't want to go to a doctor and talk about medication. They don't understand what it can do for them. They just want to be clean and sober and not have to take anything. But sometimes that's not realistic.
That's true. And it's detrimental to their well-being and health, mental health.
And their sobriety.
Yeah, if they don't.
You have to take the meds. I mean, I with the disease I have, I use AA and I use the meds that are prescribed to me, and I don't abuse those meds. I follow exactly what the doctors tell me.
Well, I'm glad you do that, because the way, as good as you've gotten with the meds, if you did too much, you'd probably be doing pirouettes in the middle of the room. And I would find that personally embarrassing because I couldn't take anywhere.
I might have to try that.
Well, just don't dress up in your wife's stuff when you're into that, man.
Right.
Do it away from us, because I
Okay.
ain't got time for that. That's a whole new deal.
A whole other topic.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Well, listen, I really enjoyed being on the show tonight, and thank you for taking my call. And I hope I gave you some insight to what my thought and my opinion was as a recovering alcoholic drug fiend.
Absolutely, JT. It's always good to hear from you, brother. I love you, man.
All right. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Miss A, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Thank God.
I have this experience with addiction and mental health that I don't hear anybody talking about, and that's people in the psychiatry field that don't have a freaking clue
About substance abuse?
And there's recovery people that don't have a freaking clue. And they actually need to start integrating this and talking to each other, because without that integration, people will die.
Definitely.
Yep, they will.
Definitely. I mean, I worked for D.D. Hirsch for 5 years, and they're a pioneer on bridging the gap between co-occurring. And, many doctors do not understand alcoholism or addiction. They do not ask the right questions.
And they over-medicate.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another problem area, too, because then they get used to this different level of medication, and they feel they should be there. And that's also detrimental into your sobriety as well. Well, I want to thank everybody, and thank you, Miss A, for calling in, but we're running out of time.
Okay.
And I got to shut the bar down. But it was a pleasure,
Okay,
and
thank you.
Please call in anytime you so desire when we're on. Love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye. Okay, well, that was interesting. The rubber hit the road at the very last minute. And, you never know where the information is going to come from. And I appreciate everybody that's called in tonight. I want to thank Kaylee and Tim for coming in and spending the hour with us. It was informative, but it was a lot of fun. And let's see if we can't do this again. Remember to tune in 6 to 7 every Sunday. And I hope that you've been able to take away something from our discussion. And I hope that you can join us next week. Remember that you can download any of our previous shows at www.latalkradio.com. That's www.latalkradio.com. Our mission here is to provide a safe platform for those who are suffering from various forms of addiction. We're not professionals in the recovery business, just people willing to listen and offer suggestions to help those in crises. And now, a few parting words from our friend in the afterlife, the late, great John Flynn.
Disappointment. Disappointment is the caboose on the choo-choo train of expectation. Anything you want from anybody, you give them what you want from them. It's the only way you're going to get it. Life is about giving, not getting. Day at a time.
Thank you for listening. Good night and good luck.
You're listening to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio with Rick Thompson, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, welcome to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio. I am your host, Rick Thompson. This show is about sobriety and recovery. Each week, we discuss a different topic relating to addiction with the aim that you can gain some insight, guidance, and hope from our discussions. We focus the show in 3 different segments. 1, the viewpoint of the families dealing with the family members suffering from alcoholism and addiction so they may assist them in obtaining treatment. 2, the psychological trauma and emotional damage alcoholics and addicts and their families experience. 3, the role of the insurance companies and associate providers and their part in the recovery process.